Hi everyone. Today we're looking at the background information to Pompeii and Herculaneum. Pompeii and Herculaneum were two Roman cities that got destroyed in a massive volcanic eruption. But their history goes back long before that. They were actually already hundreds of years old at the time they got destroyed in 79 AD. And they had actually been colonies of the Greeks at different points in their history. So we'll be tracing back the history of these two cities 600, 700 years before the eruption to learn more about them and where they actually came from and how they got their names. In the 8th century BC, the region of Campania was occupied by the Italian Oscan tribe. So we can see this is the region of Campania and it was occupied by that particular Oscan tribe. In the 7th century BC, that's 699 to 600 BC, Greek colonists arrive and establish the city of Naples. And the city of Naples still exists today. It's a great city. It's a modern city with about 3 million people. And the Greeks had a lot of different colonies in the region. The Greeks actually established colonies in other parts of Italy, and they also established colonies in what we now call Ukraine. And they had colonies in other parts as well. They were quite a great civilization, and they established themselves in a lot of places. Herculaneum is founded and named after the superhuman Greek hero Herakles, and that's the Roman Hercules. The origin of Pompeii's name and founder is unknown, but one day with further excavation we might be able to find the answer to where Pompeii's name comes from. In the mid-6th century to mid-5th century, other Italian tribes called the Etruscans occupy the region. The Etruscans were a great people who lived in the northern part of Italy, and they were there before the Romans. In 474 BC, the Greeks retake the region after the Battle of Cumae. Pompeii and Herculaneum became centres of Greek culture. And both Pompeii and Herculaneum have got a lot of foreign influences. They've got a lot of Greek influences. They also have Egyptian influences. And a lot of the Greek influence comes from the fact that they were ruled by the Greeks. In 400 BC to the 1st century BC, the Italian Samnite tribe controlled Campania, and they influenced city design and architecture. In 310 BC, Rome takes over Campania. In 91 BC, Pompeii and Herculaneum join a revolt against Roman control. So they might have been taken over by the Romans, but they weren't always happy with Roman control. They failed to win their freedom. In 89 BC, Herculaneum is made a municipium, a city with the right to trade with Rome and govern itself. In 80 BC, Pompeii, because of greater resistance during the revolt, is made a colony. So this means it's got all the same rights as a municipium, but Rome places soldiers there to keep a watch on things. In this picture, we can see what Herculaneum looks like today. So in this part of the picture, we can see some of the ruins of Herculaneum, and in the background, you can see some modern buildings that have been built. In 73 BC, there was a great slave rebellion led by an escaped slave named Spartacus. This was a very famous slave rebellion, and even in modern times, they've made movies about it. In 1960, there was a very famous movie with Kirk Douglas called Spartacus, where they talked about this rebellion. What happened is you had a slave who was a gladiator named Spartacus, and he broke out of the gladiator training school with a whole other bunch of gladiators, and they formed an army. And for a couple of years, they travelled around Italy and caused a lot of problems for the Romans. 70 rebels hired out in the region, and later the number actually rose to 70,000. So you can see with 70,000 of these people running around, it became a big problem for the Romans. The revolt was ultimately crushed, and most of the people who revolted were killed. About AD 59, a riot breaks out between Pompeian spectators and those from a nearby town of Nuceria in Pompeii's sports theatre or amphitheatre. Some new Syrians are killed, and Rome bans entertainment in Pompeii's amphitheatre for 10 years. So that's quite interesting. I think they were quite strict in the sense that they were banning entertainment there for 10 years because of that incident. About AD 62, there was a major earthquake which hit Pompeii, and a lot of damage was caused to the city. And even today, you can still see some of the things that were damaged or destroyed in that earthquake. And the Romans did try to rebuild, and they did rebuild or repair parts of the city, but they didn't manage to repair everything by the time the earthquake hit in 79 AD. But they did make some repairs. And in this picture, we can see the amphitheatre. It looks similar to a modern amphitheatre, and you can see it's quite a good, solid building that they had. That brings us to the end of our presentation about the background to Pompeii and Herculaneum.